Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Today we are going to look at the third palette from the Jaclyn Hill Morphe vault. So far we have looked at the Bling Boss palette and Dark Magic palette. If you haven't seen those swatches and those videos, they are linked in the description box below. I'll see how I can link them on the screen as well. To just give you an idea, those two were a huge disappointment. The Bling Boss palette, I thought it looked good until I looked at the footage. The Dark Magic palette was a disaster from start to the end. Now we're gonna look at the third palette, which is the Ring the Alarm palette, and I have to say I am absolutely loving the look that I have come up with today, and I'm so happy that I like it. Oh my goodness. I had to add in a shadow from a different palette, and I'll tell you all about it towards the end, and I'll show you how those shadows compare, but I'm loving what I have so far which is a huge change from what I've been experiencing. But first, just let's get into the swatches. Today I'm going back to the Eco Tools brushes that I used in the Bling Boss palette. Just like my usual eyeshadow swatches, I'm going to do them on my bare lids. There is no product, no primer, no concealer on top of my lids. So the very first shade, Lolly, is a beautiful peach to gold dual chrome shimmer. It looks absolutely gorgeous in the pan. It applied very nicely and evenly with a smudger brush all over my lid. Rush is a medium orangey brown, you can say. I was very surprised that this shade was getting patchy while applying. On camera is an antique gold shimmer. Again, a beautiful, beautiful shimmer. It applied okay with a smudger brush, but you need to go back in the pan several times to cover the entire lid. It kind of tends to stick to the very first place where you put it, and then it doesn't really spread much. I don't know if this shadow could be applied sheer on top of other mattes at this point. I'll have to test that out. Boom is a pure copper shade. Again, super beautiful. It looks much darker in the pan, but it applied very similar to on camera. It needed several passes into the pan to get the whole lid covered, and again, I'm not sure if it can be applied sheer. Alert is a warm brown or terracotta shade almost, you can say. Again, I could not get it to apply evenly all over my lids. Again, it was blending away in the middle, getting patchy as I worked more on it and kind of bunching up in the corners. So far with these palettes, I've seen that as we get into darker shades, the lack of pigmentation kind of becomes more apparent. I don't know if it's lack of pigmentation or if it's lack of adhesion. I don't know what's going on. Bomb Ass is a very unique warm pink shade. This is one of my favorite shades in this palette. If I were to just look at this palette, this shade is what would make me buy this palette. It's really unique. I don't think I have this particular color anywhere in my collection. The texture of this shadow is again very similar to the previous three shimmers that we have seen. You need to go back several times in the pan to cover the entire lid. At this point, I'm feeling like all these shimmers emphasize any texture I have on my lids. Siren is a reddish brown matte with micro gold shimmer. Again, same problem as the rest of the mattes, blending away in the center, dark spots at the edges, so let's move on. Mugshot is a cooler terracotta. It is barely showing up and is blending away at the center of my lids like all the other mattes. Framed is a deep cool toned red. I have never had shadows in this kind of colors, especially the entire color range in this palette do this to me before. It's kind of getting patchy at the center of my lid and then kind of bunching up in my crease. Secret is kind of a dark brown or almost chocolate color, beautiful color, but same issues. Both the Framed and Secret are applying patchy, weak, they're blending away, bad in general. Alright, so before I sat down and created today's look, I had decided that I'm not going to include the demonstration of the looks for each of the palettes in the final video. As I was planning to in the very beginning, I thought I would just not do it, but I'm very excited about this look. If you are interested, let me know. I will kind of post a separate video. I have recorded it. I'll post it as a separate video. I'm not going to include it in the vault video. I will kind of do more of like comparisons in the vault video, where I'll show you how these shadows are in comparison to Jaclyn's previous palette and why I'm having so much of an issue with these shadows. Anyway, So let's get into this palette. If you look at the colors, this is a warm tone golden shadow lover's dream palette. I absolutely love the look of it. If I did not have so much collection, if I did not hold myself back from buying warm palettes, this would be my first palette of choice in this collection. Now, when I was applying these shadows over my bare lids, I had the exact same issues I had so far, where all the mattes were kind of blending away in the center of my eye where there's more of a raised portion. I guess the brush kind of grazes more over there, no matter how much I kept on picking up and adding on top. Yeah, it was not good. The shimmers are very pretty in the pan. They applied okay, but they are very different from what I have experienced before with shimmers, especially with shimmers because they have slight bit extra amount of oil portion in them. When you apply, they blend way easily, but these shimmers, you just kind of pick them up and put them on and just like apply it in that like one micro spot, pick them up again, apply in the next micro spot. They don't just kind of go over the entire lid and cover them. And this was kind of very apparent with Lolly. I was applying Lolly with this like tiny little brush at the inner corner of my eye, but I was somehow picking up bomb ass from here and kind of transferring it like on there. They're kind of very sticky. They have a very different consistency. From the ingredients, I can see that they have magnesium stearate in them. I have seen that magnesium stearate, when it is slightly in excess, can make the shades very kind of sticky, like they kind of bunch up. And that's what I have seen here. Another issue I have with these shades is that they emphasize texture to no bounds. They really do. Like, I really don't like, you know, how the shadow looks on my lids here, even though I love the color. I don't like its texture. But I applied the on-camera shade in my waterline and it kind of, you know, got washed away because my, you know, waterline is pretty watery. So it, I think, pretty much stays on it. But it has kind of retained itself in my, you know, just at the edge of my lash line, which I really, really like. Now, with Lolly, I felt like it just was not applying nicely. So this is Lolly. And I have two pretty similar shades in the Carli Bybel palette. So that's the pinkier shade, that's the peachier shade. I think the peachier shade is closer to Lolly, though Lolly is kind of in between these two shades. If you now just check how they apply. So this is Lolly. Okay, I'm gonna give it, and I did the same amount of pickup with both my fingers, and then just look how nicely they're just lot more powdery, or they're less sticky, and then they just kind of blend. And I think it's so much easier to spread shimmer shadows usually, but somehow it's not happening with the shimmer shadows from this palette. So I actually took this shade, and that's what I have on my lid on top of Lolly. So you cannot kind of see Lolly, it's actually covered in this. Can you see how patchy Lolly is compared to the other two shadows? That's Lolly. These are the two ones from BH Cosmetics palette. So my overall thought is that this palette is clearly my favorite so far. It's much better than Bling Boss or Dark Magic. And as I said, the mask definitely worked out much better with the primer underneath. However, they're still not at par with what I have seen from drugstore. Since I have the Carli Bybel palette in front of me, this is not as bright a color. It's kind of a skin tone color. Let me pick that up, and then I'm gonna pick up Rush. I'm kind of smoothing out both. So that's Rush, and then that's the shadow from the Carli Bybel palette. I don't know if you can see that it kind of fills in any texture and becomes really smooth and even, whereas this one is still patchy even though I have kind of blended it. So that's the issue I have experienced, you know, throughout using these palettes so far. So now we have one more palette left, which is the Armed & Gorgeous palette. I'm gonna test that out, and I will give you my final thoughts in the vault video. But I hope you guys found these swatches useful. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Was this one of your favorite palettes? Were you thinking about that? Have you already picked up the vault, or did it kind of sell out on you, and are you planning to buy it again? I would definitely say wait and see. Okay, all right. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!